Well, good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. And today we have a conversation that is especially important for families, educators, students, and community stakeholders throughout Prince George's County. Education remains one of the most powerful pathways to opportunity, and the leadership of our public schools has a direct impact on the future of our children and our communities. That's why today we're pleased to welcome Dr. Shawn Joseph, the newly appointed former interim superintendent of Prince George's County Schools, who will discuss his progress and the progress of the Prince George's County school system, along with its challenges, and what his vision is for shaping one of the nation's largest school districts. Dr. Joseph, welcome to Let's Talk.
Denise, it's great to be back.
Oh, it's a pleasure. As I said earlier, your smile is bigger. I hope that means that you are born and ready.
Right. I can finally get some rest for a little.
Yeah, I forgot about rest. I forgot about that part, right? But anyway, I want to start again with a little bit of background on yourself, and just it's from what I read, it's so similar to what a lot of kids. Families in which kids grow up in, and how you were able to achieve. Being raised by a single mother and becoming the first person in your immediate family to graduate from high school. Let's talk a little bit about that, where you're from, and how you feel as though that experience even prepared you or propelled you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in Long Island, New York, and I'm I was the first person in my family to graduate from high school. So going to college was a big deal. I ended up getting to Lincoln University, which is America's oldest historically Black college, and it changed my life. It redefined a definition of reality, that I had. And graduated from Lincoln and ended up becoming an English teacher, reading specialist, dean of students, a principal, superintendent of schools, 3 times now. And so, I think my experiences helped me in a number of ways. One, it helps me just connect with people. Like, I understand all families have hopes and dreams for their children. I also understand that an education can totally transform your circumstance and your life. And I understand that to whom much is given, much is expected. That I've made it throughout life because people have reached back and pulled up, and so we've got a responsibility to do that.
I want to go back just a little bit because, being the first to go to college in your family, and as you know, a lot of kids are graduating right now or in the 11th grade and really don't know what the next step is going to be. And college is frightening to them.
It is.
To their parents, because I've talked to parents who don't want their kids to leave home. Talk about that transition a little bit, what it was like for you and your mother.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard for me because you just don't know what you don't know. And going, I went from New York to Pennsylvania, but that 3-hour drive seemed like I was going to a different country.
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up with humble beginnings and very limited means, like, it was rare that I got out of Long Island. Like I probably went to New York City, which is only 45 minutes, 5 or 6 times in my life. Until after college and I was an adult and I could drive myself, so because you're limited by your neighborhood more often than not. And many people don't get out of a 10 to 20 mile radius of their zip code. And so getting to Lincoln University, and for the first time, at Lincoln University was the first place I saw a Black man and a Black woman that I called doctor.
Mm.
Before that, if it wasn't Cliff Huxtable and Claire Huxtable, I never physically saw a Black lawyer and a Black doctor.
Wow.
Till Lincoln University. And that made me realize, maybe I can do that, then seeing people with PhDs and MDs and researchers. It just was literally transformational. But I know the experience of, completing the FAFSA form, the free the federal application for student loans, filling that out myself and figuring that out. And, for my parents for them, that their hope for me was to get a good government job. When you graduate, you get a teaching job and you can get a pension. So we didn't really learn about wealth. Because the mentality was just get a job and be happy you got that job and be able to take care of your bills. But the whole notion of generational wealth and owning things and seeing yourself as the CEO, not the worker, that was something it just didn't learn until later in life.
I want to stick with that just a little bit longer because being I assume a proud Lincoln alumna.
Yes.
I'm not asking you to promote the school, but this is your chance to do it.
Well,
what was it about Lincoln? Why did you select Lincoln?
Well, let me say this. I'm actually about to join the board of trustees at Lincoln University.
Congratulations. Okay. Well, yeah, good.
I'm all in.
We have a job to do now. You have to promote the university.
Right. For Lincoln, for me, it was when I read their history and saw that in its first 100 years, up until about 1950, that it produced 10% of the Black doctors in the country, and I think 20% of the Black lawyers in the country. And I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, how could one little school in Pennsylvania with less than 1,000 students do that? But the same Presbyterian church that founded Princeton, was established Lincoln. And it was, they had a partnership with Princeton at the time in exchange. It's the only place in the country that Albert Einstein accepted an honorary doctorate from.
Wow.
And there's an iconic picture of him teaching, Black students, at the time it was all men, physics. And so then, I studied and learned Nnamdi Ezekwe in Nkrumah, the first presidents of Ghana and Nigeria went there, Langston Hughes, Thurgood Marshall. So it was, I saw these people that I had studied and learned about in history went to the same little college in the middle of the rolling hills of, southern Pennsylvania, where the Amish folks were. And it was just transformational for me. I mean, the teachers there were very nurturing. They were very personable, and they pushed you to be better than you thought you could be.
Yeah.
And that just, it was amazing for me. And for a young Black man who had not only heard the negative aspects of Black history, when I was in high school, I thought Black history started with slavery. And then I went to Lincoln University and took the Black Experience course and came across Ivan Van Sertima as They Came Before Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
and the others, and just a whole world opened. It was like a veil was lifted where I understood my space and place as a Black man in this world, and which we've always been powerful. We've always been brilliant. We've just had some atrocities happen to us, and the conditions in which we had to function, required perseverance, and you learned that. So when you know who you are, you walk a little stronger and bolder in the world, because regardless of what people try to tell you you are, deep inside, from whence you came, and your strength, and that helps you endure the nonsense we deal with in this America.
Well, I'm glad you said all of that, because I'm hoping that there will be parents and young people that watch this interview and will see kind of, how you made that step and what Lincoln was for you. And I think the other challenge that young people have also is the cost.
Yes.
College education right now is awful. I mean, it's just humongous, the cost. But even then, I'm sure how did you do that? How did you pay for Lincoln?
Yeah. So another thing about Lincoln. So I graduated from Central Islip High School in New York with a 2.75 grade point average.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yes. But it wasn't because academically I couldn't do better. It was because I worked. So I wound up having 2 jobs while I was going through high school. Again, I had a single mother. So I tried to take the burden off of her. And I worked, 2 jobs while in high school, and just, didn't have the time to study like I could and would. But Lincoln gave me a scholarship
Okay.
with that 2.75, with less than 1,000 on the SAT, which is low. They gave me a scholarship, and I was in their honors program. So they covered most of the tuition. I think my mother had to pay only about $850 or something like that. That
Wow.
had to come out of her pocket, that she still had to put on a credit card at that time back then, but she, happily did. And and then once I got to Lincoln, I was a member of Upward Bound. I was a resident advisor, and so I found ways to make a couple dollars, so I didn't have that burden on my mom.
Well, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
Clearly, with what you saw, and well, I commend you for that. And here you are now. You're leading one of the nation's largest school districts, serving over 130,000 students and employing over 20,000 people from that humble beginning. What does it mean to you now to be the permanent superintendent of Prince George's County Schools?
It's humbling. Every day I walk into my office, I am fully aware of the tremendous opportunity and responsibility that I have with 130,000 students in the district. And, we're 96% Black and Latino in our district. And when I say Black, Blacks throughout the diaspora, I'm cognizant of the wonderful responsibility and opportunity that we have. We can show the nation that what excellence looks like, and transform not only a community. I mean, I think the Prince Georgians have transformed the world. I mean, we have some brilliant people that reside in our community, and that come here from around the world, as being right outside of Washington, D.C. So for us, I see the natural resource that we have within the community, with so many wonderful universities right here, like, University of Maryland, College Park, Bowie State University, University of Maryland, Global Campus, Prince George's Community College. They're all within our bedroom here. And some of the major world institutions like NASA, and, being right outside of Washington, D.C., we've got the natural resource to be a preeminent district focused on, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And I think we have a thriving economy and industry here that we really can make some partnerships and ensure that we're home to Andrews Air Force Base. So, we've got a strong military presence and strong science and biomedical, hub here, and, a strong arts community here. So for me, I see the natural resources, but they have to be connected, and we have to be intentional about building partnership, and ensuring kids get access to opportunity. I was a professor. I just actually, I should hear within the next week or two, but I'm pretty confident that I'll earn tenure at Howard University. In the school
It's my alma mater.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely. And I spent 6 years. I spent 6 years there on the tenure track.
wow. Okay.
Part of my research was looking at the gaps we see with Black girls entering science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And what my research and studies confirm is that it's not a matter of brilliance. It's a matter of access to opportunity. A lot of times we don't have Black girls in STEM fields because no one ever gave them access.
Right.
So though they're here, they don't know what they can be and can't be, and they're discouraged quite often to pursue, those fields. And a great school system gives kids access, gives them opportunity, exposes them. There's no reason children who live in Prince George's County don't walk into the NASA Center to understand, what happens with aerospace dynamics for the world here. There's no reason that children shouldn't walk on the campuses of a Bowie State University, a University of Maryland, College Park, and know that they belong there and have access to some of the professors and people and thoughts and ideas and things that are happening, to help them have a definition of reality and a self-concept that says we can do this.
Um, Dr. Joseph, one of the things that concerns me a little bit, because you talk about partnership, and we know and you talked about history and how, historically, Black folks really fought hard to get an education.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, I'm not sure where we are, but, when we talk about partnerships, we're also talking about partnering with parents,
Yes.
teachers, and administrators.
Mhm.
And I know you did listening sessions and community engagement efforts, when you first came to the school system. Do you feel as though you got those partnerships working with you, particularly what am I trying to say, parents and businesses and others in the do those partnerships actually exist?
Not like they should.
Yeah.
That's the honest answer. I think in Prince George's County in particular, I think what's hurting us more than anything is classism. I think we have a huge part of our middle class in Prince George's County that do not choose the school system. You know, Carter G. Woodson in The Miseducation of the Negro talked about this notion within the Black community that so often uh, many of us who have means, who get the education, choose to actually leave our communities instead of building them up. And we take our resources, whether it is financial, whether it's just our presence, and we go other places. Prince George's County has an interesting history in that, as it relates to segregation and integration here. In 19, I believe 78, we brought in TRIM, which focused on the tax reform in Maryland, which said that we were going to limit the amount of funding that we could get from property taxes, which are the primary economic driver of school funding across the nation here. So for over 20 years, we didn't build a school. And we had and the funding that came to the school system was predominantly dependent upon what the state would provide us. Even till this day, 58% of the monies that we get to run our school system come directly from the state. 33% comes from local dollars, and about 5 or 6% come from federal, and then others come from other grants and things of that nature. And so we were limited in the resource that we have. And you see it in buildings that are older. We probably have some of the oldest stock of buildings in the state of Maryland. You see it for years, our salaries were behind the region. Now they're caught up. But there was a long period, where those resources were limited. And you saw the impact of a district that did not stay at pace with the funding. This year, we cut $150 million from our budget, which was the largest cut we made in the school system's history. So when you're grappling with those types of realities, it really takes the community to invest instead of divest here, and say we are going to take responsibility, control our own destiny, and be in the community to build. And we've got to do a better job. And so now I come in 2026, recognizing the history, but acknowledging where we are. And we've got to make a compelling case to rebuild, to reconnect people, to connect resources, to acknowledge that we still should be improving. Whether we get resource or not, we should be better. We can get better faster with resource, but more importantly, the most important resource we need is our people's presence. People who are conscious and capable and are accountable and demanding us to be accountable. But we as a school system have to do a better job of being more transparent, making it easier for people to partner with us, easier for people to connect, easier for people to understand what we're doing with the dollars that we do have. Because no community invests in dysfunction. And if there's a perception of dysfunction, then they choose to opt out. And so we have to do our part to help people know we're capable, we're functional, and our children are worthy of investment. And that takes time, communication, trust, presence, and a plan. And
Right.
so, we've just built a new strategic plan that we're calling Forward by Design, which is a 3-year plan that focuses on family engagement, improving reading and mathematics, bringing AI into our system thoughtfully and ethically, making sure we're more accountable, and really driving to ensure that all of our students, but particularly our special needs students, our multilingual learners, and our advanced students have robust programming that meets their needs.
Yeah, I know that you have some priorities, and I think you've mentioned that, special needs students and what did you call multilingual
Yes.
students as well. And so, I mean, how did you shape those priorities? Was it from those listening sessions,
Yes.
or just what you observed the needs are?
No, so we had 20 listening sessions with parents and community members, and we spoke to thousands of parents and staff, and listening to the themes that came from those. I mean, particularly special education. That was one priority that many families. When I came into the district in June 27th of last year, the state had deemed us in corrective action for special education because we had way too many special education vacancies and we had way too many complaints about things not going right in special education. And so, over the year, we went from having 280 special education vacancies to less than 60 right now.
Now, how does that happen? Is it because kids are getting lost in the sauce, so to say? I mean, how do you fill vacancies that you have students, or how do you have these vacancies when you know that you have children or students that could fill those vacancies? What happened?
So I don't know how we got that high.
Yeah.
What I do know, when I came in, the first thing I told the community was, we can't manage a secret. We know this, so let's put it out there. And then I created some data dashboards, or the team created data dashboards to be able to show real time where vacancies were in the system, so I could monitor them more closely. I think we benefited from last year, the challenge with the federal government and all the layoffs and things. Prince George's County has thousands of federal employees. So when those layoffs and things happened, then people were looking for new opportunities. We have programs within the school system that can get somebody in, get them in a program, and get them working towards their certification while they're in the system. So we brought a lot of people in from the federal government, as well as doing better targeted recruitment, and then looking within the school system with people who may have associate's degrees but wanted to pursue, connecting with them, our teacher assistants and others, to get them in programming that could enable them to get certified. But we just made sure we were monitoring better, communicating, and then working in targeted areas, because we had schools that had 9, 10, 12 vacancies for multiple years. So you potentially have a student who didn't have a certified math teacher for 2 or 3 years in a row. Well, when that happens, you'll always fall behind in achievement because you didn't have the basics there. A qualified teacher ready to greet the student to educate them. And so for me, it was about focus, being clear about what's important, and just working relentlessly to try to recruit and retain. And so a big part of our Forward by Design new strategic plan is building capacity of staff and making sure we're recruiting a diverse learning and workforce.
So that Forward by Design, is that something that exists on the school system's website? Can parents and community members access it to kind of go through it and see what is the plan?
Yes, next week we're going to be putting it out to the entire community for feedback before we ask the board to vote on it. We want to give the community opportunities to see it, give us feedback, and for us to make revisions before we bring it to the board for approval. So once it comes out, I'll be sure you get a copy in hand, and it'll be on our website as well.
Wonderful. We'll do our job to help to promote that.
Thank you.
I'm also curious because, this new, this administration, I won't call it new, but this administration has done a lot to reduce, or if not totally eliminate, the Department of Education.
Yes.
How has that impacted the Prince George's County schools, or has it?
Well, the Department of Education work has not significantly hurt the School of Education, but I do think the culture wars have. Like just today, prior to coming and interviewing with you, I was at, there's currently a House committee happening today where they're looking at the superintendent from Chicago Public Schools, Loudoun County Public Schools, and San Francisco. And they're challenging them on their stance on diversity, on their stance on how they deal with transgender students, and how they deal with, parent input and things of that nature. We've become a very divisive country around education and ensuring that, all children are respected, valued, and supported in our system. And so those things, we've seen the federal government go after, school districts that are predominantly, Black and Latino. Chicago, for example, they challenged, Chicago had a African American plan, a student achievement plan, because they're a district that's predominantly African American, and African American students there were not performing at the levels in which they wanted. So they developed a specific plan focused on African American students. Well, the federal government, under these new policies, said that is illegal and unconstitutional, that you can't focus on the kids who are having significant need. So those, and they lost federal money because of it. So the pulling, with school system dollars being so scarce, when you start pulling significant amounts of federal dollars from those districts that are already weak, you weaken the overall, ability of the school system to educate its most vulnerable students.
Yeah, I think too, just personally speaking, yesterday I had the opportunity to speak at a 5th grade graduation here in the district. I hadn't done that in a long time. So you try to deliver a message, you're talking to the kids and to the parents, but recognizing the fact that some of those children were immigrants who had been dropped off. Yeah. Among the groups who had been dropped off by the administration in front of, Vice President Kamala Harris's house. And so, because I was wondering why they were so emotional at this graduation. And then some of them have lost their parents.
Yes.
Who've been returned to their, the homes in which they immigrated from. Yeah. So, I don't know has the Prince George's County schools been affected by that, and your bilingual or your multilingual students. I mean, I'm sure that they have they're not special needs, but they have special needs, right? Yeah. Yes. How do you manage that with such a diverse school system?
Yeah, like I said, in Prince George's County, 40% of our students are English language learners, or English is their second language. What we've seen is definite fear within the community. And we've seen a dramatic increase in truancy and students not coming to school. And I think many families, as a result of the fear, as a result of the uncertainty and the real danger that ICE has posed, are not getting educated. They're just not coming. And we've seen those drop-offs. We've seen a large spike in the need to provide mental health services and supports to students. All right, because it's hard to learn when your mind is on whether, when I get home, are mom and dad going to be there, or did something happen to them? I think so. Those stress levels have dramatically increased under this current environment that we're in, and that is not healthy for students. And so I think we have not had instances where ICE have been involved in Prince George's County to date, but that fear of them being so close and in proximity to the federal government and what's happening has contributed to, we believe, spikes in the need for mental health supports and spikes in chronic absenteeism. And again, when you have chronic absenteeism issues or mental health issues, you will have academic performance issues.
So that's a budget issue as well. I mean, how have you been able to address that? Are you all coming up with more, mental health specialists at your schools? Do they have phone visits? How does that
Mhm.
come
Yeah,
in?
so we've been fortunate in Prince George's County to be the recipients of state grants that have supported mental health support.
Okay.
So that has helped. We do have opportunities for students to get telehealth support, so that permeates throughout the district. We have a program called Community Schools, where again the state has provided additional dollars for our communities that are most vulnerable with low socioeconomic status, to give them additional monies to focus on things like mental health, food security, housing security, and extracurricular activities and things to provide supports. So we have the largest number of community schools in the state of Maryland. So again, because education is a state function, we're very fortunate to be in a state where education is prioritized by both the governor and the state legislature, with what we call the Maryland Blueprint for Success, where they're putting billions of additional dollars into public education. But when you look at other states, places like Alabama or Texas or Florida, where the state view on education is much different.
Mhm.
You have very different outcomes. So a child in Alabama does not have nearly as much access and opportunity in
Yeah.
education as a child in Maryland,
Yeah.
because those state functions and the leadership of those states, how the states fund schools, are dramatically different.
So, Dr. Joseph, before you go, I want to kind of transition a little bit to some things we can celebrate
Yes.
again. And one, I understand that, the Prince George's graduates this year have secured more than $729 million in scholarships, that the graduation rates are increasing. I think last year you were up at about 80%.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, if I was there, I'd give you a big pat on the back, as well as those graduates who've done that.
Yes.
Tell me how do you feel about the achievements that your students are making?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're making progress. An indication. I mean, $729 million in scholarships is a lot, and that's verified. Meaning, the only way we count it is students upload the actual acceptance that shows that that's what they actually have earned, and that's happened in all 24 of our high schools. So every high school has students that are getting college scholarships. And as I went through, I completed 17 out of our 24 graduations this year. And you hear the students going to, every university in America, from the Ivy Leagues to our historically Black colleges to our state schools. We know we're doing something right. And our young, our students are learning, gaining knowledge, and are able to go off to pursue their wildest dreams. So we're happy about that. We're happy about the fact that we've increased our dual enrollment, getting more students opportunities to get college credits while in high school. That's important because it reduces the overall cost students will ultimately have to pay if they choose to continue to pursue that. And we're as we move towards next year in the Forward by Design, we're going to be more intentional about our kids who choose not to go directly to college, but making sure that they can get skills to, we've got a number of schools where kids are going off to become, graduating from high school, and they can go in to be welders. They can go in to work with auto mechanics or plumbing.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I also wanted to ask related to that is, are you able to see sort of a trend of what those trades are that some of the students are selected, male and female?
Yeah, just this morning I was speaking with the new CEO of Employ Prince George's, Miss Latera Harris. And one of the things we were talking about was standing up a committee working with the Chamber of Commerce here in Prince George's County to convene some of our large industries here to understand what their needs are, what the direct entry-level jobs are, and making sure that we have a more strategic way to ensure that students are in the pipeline to be able to go after those jobs. I think our county executive, Aisha Braveboy, has been very intentional about expanding opportunity and bringing opportunity to Prince George's. So we have the sphere coming. That's going to require, hundreds, if not thousands, of new jobs that are going to require some technical skills. So how do we, as a school system, know what those jobs of the future that are going to be driving our local economy are, and making sure we've got programs and dynamic ways to get kids directly there is the conversations that we must continue to have, and we're having in Prince George's. So we're excited about that.
So before I give you an opportunity to close and give us anything you want to tell us that I haven't asked about, I saw a report the other day that about 35 school systems across the country have eliminated or stopped students from using their cell phones in classrooms. Where's Maryland on that?
Yeah, so in Prince George's County right now, in Prince George's County right now, we have allowed each community to make that decision, each school. So we have some schools where cell phones are banned and cannot be taken out. We have others where they allow them to use them, but only between classes and while they're at lunch. And we have some that allow them to use them, and they use them to do work within buildings. Our board's decision has been, we're so big, with 209 schools and so many different communities, 9 different board jurisdictions. They wanted each community to have input and voice in making that decision instead of being a mandate. But I understand the mandate because so many of our kids are distracted by the devices, and so many of our kids, those devices cause distractions by what they're sending to one another and things of that nature. So I understand why people do it. And so I'm sure it'll be a conversation for us to continue to have in Prince George's County.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like it's one of those things where, kids don't want you to ban it, but at the same time, are so happy you did. Right. Before we close, Dr. Joseph, is there anything that I didn't ask, and we could have gone on because I have a lot of questions still, but yes, we're going to be there hopefully for a while so we can get back to that. But anything you want to share with the community that we didn't talk about today?
Yeah, the big thing I would say about Prince George's County is that I feel like we're on the move, and I think that's important. But I do urge our community to engage, and we're going to do a better job of letting people know how they can engage and how they can be active. But the fact is, I did a statistical analysis of students with the identified data in the state. So I got a file from the state to show how students performed in the state without their names, to answer the question, are kids in Prince George's County doing as well as or better than students in the state? And what we found is that Black students and Latino students in Prince George's County do on average perform better than Black and Latino students across the state. That's not something that gets out there in the public and celebrated. We still have tremendous work to do. But when you look at school systems and communities that look like Prince George's County, we hold our own. Parents can go to our website and they can go online and pull up their school. And for each school, I put information on the website to show our schools making adequate growth and our schools growing kids adequately here. And overall, what we found is students are growing 1 year for the year that they're there. But the problem is when you have a student that comes and English isn't their first language and they're behind, if I grow 1 year, but I was already 3 years behind, when I take the state test, it's going to say you didn't perform. Yeah. Well, the teacher did what they were supposed to do. They helped grow the kid, but the kid is still behind. So I say we don't have a remediation problem in Prince George's County. We have an acceleration imperative. We've got to figure out how to grow kids faster, more than 1 year at a time, if they're going to achieve in change what the state scores report on us. So what I say to families is, visit our schools, come in, ask questions, see what resources and supports they have. Because I've said this before on your show, if you've got $30 to $40 to $50,000 a year that you can put in private school, imagine what you could do in terms of generational wealth if you took that $30, $40, $50,000 and put it in a mutual fund for the child, educated them. Over the course of 12 years, you'd make your child a millionaire and start them off in a totally different trajectory. I do know that there are some parents who, believe in private schools and believe in religious schools, and they have the right, to do that. But I don't want anyone who that $30, $40, $50,000 is a struggle for them to feel like they must do it because they have no option to get a public education of quality. I think we have a responsibility to educate all of our community well, to prepare them. And again, with the $729 million in scholarships, we're doing something right for the kids who do work within our district. But we've got to get families to feel that confidence to come on back if they're not here. So we have to find ways to get people to at least come in and experience what's there to make an informed choice. And that's the work I look forward to leading as we move forward by design.
I'm being the proverbial Baptist preacher here. I got one more question. Talk to the kids that are going to be out of school for the summer. How should they spend this time?
Yeah, if you're home right now, there's nothing more powerful than continuing to read, to continue to explore your interests, getting to the wonderful museums that we have in the region, getting to the library. Don't spend all of your time playing video games sitting at home. You've got to work your brain like you're working like an athlete works to get stronger. And so I would encourage them and their families to get out, explore, pursue your passion, the thing you love to do, spend time doing it and learning more. There's a book called, I would tell students that there's a book called The Outliers by a gentleman named Malcolm Gladwell. And in it, he communicates that to be excellent at something requires 10,000 hours of preparation and training. And so I'd encourage them to figure out how many hours, how many days of that must it be, how much practice must they have to be excellent at something. If it's 10,000 hours, make a commitment to work towards that 10,000 hours in a particular discipline. Because when you're excellent at something, you can change the world, and we need more world changers.
Well, Dr. Shawn Joseph, thank you so very much for being with us today. I see that easy chair back there. I think you need a break. So, I hope you get to use it from time to time, that you get to, have some downtime during the summer because you got a very busy school year. That's
what that chair is telling you is I'm getting old. And the day, I need to sit down and get myself together.
But at least you have it, so that's good. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll get back, maybe at the beginning of the school year, mid-year, just to see how things are going. But
I look forward to it.
We have an open door here.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a great day.
Okay, take care.